Hello, my name is Bruce.
Hello, Bruce.
It has been 3 weeks since my last fish, on my honour, or may I be chopped up and made into soup.
You're an inspiration to all of us.
Amy.
Right then, who's next?
Pick me!
Yes, the little Sheila down the front.
Woo!
Come on up here.
Hi, I'm Dory.
Hello, Dory.
And I don't think I've ever eaten a fish.
Hi, that's incredible.
Good
Dory.
on you, mate.
I'm glad I got that off my chest.
Welcome back to another episode of Front Row Cinema, a movie podcast for movie lovers by movie lovers. I am your host, TJ Trimboli, and with me, as always, my co-host, joining me all the way from the EAC, baby, we got Mr. James O'Reilly.
How's it going, buddy?
It's going. And each week, we take a look at my 1,000 movies I've seen in theaters, and we see how well it's aged, along with the hype surrounding the film, its box office analysis, and legacy in the film industry. So if you enjoy this kind of content, leave that sub button on YouTube, leave that 5-star review on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. It's how you help the channel grow. Jim, what are we watching tonight?
We're watching the Pixar classic, Finding Nemo.
That's right, 2003's animated classic, Finding Nemo, directed by Andrew Stanton, written by him, Bob Peterson, and David Reynolds, and starring Albert Brooks and Ellen DeGeneres. Now, Jim, I feel like I let you down in weeks past, as X2 was kind of the end of an era. We had to say goodbye to the VHS cover, but then I realized something. I forgot to really dive into my classics that were my Disney VHS clamshells.
Wow. So they had a Finding Nemo VHS.
Now I have here my Finding Nemo VHS. So actually here today, Jim, this might finally actually be the end of the era. I think this truly is the last, but what a way to go out. We got this beautiful Finding Nemo VHS cover here. But yeah, go on.
It's wild to see one of those again, because Disney VHSs always had, I think you just called it a clamshell.
Yeah.
But they had those like big cases that were like the kind of like squishy, almost plastic.
Yep, that's what we got here. This big, huge case. And I got it from a thrift store, and I wish I could find the guy who dropped it off, because he did not Be Kind rewind. Look at that, all the way at the end of the film. Son of a bitch here.
I love that. When did you get it at a thrift store and you still haven't rewound it? Did you just like it?
I think I picked this one up a while ago. And yeah, I just haven't busted out the VHS copy to do my due diligence and rewind it. But Jim, just in case this VHS copy wasn't enough for you, I could bust out instead the Blu-ray copy for you if you wanted me to read off of that lovely bad boy. But just in case that's not enough for you either,
read off the VHS.
I also have the 4K Steelbook in case you wanted to dive yourself into that bad boy.
Jeez, how many copies of Finding Nemo do you own?
Just those 3.
Like, you've like prepared yourself in the event of an apocalypse. At least you'll be able to watch Finding Nemo on whatever video platform is available to you.
In case anything happens to me, if the internet's working good, I got Disney Plus. The internet goes down, I got the 4K. The 4K player stops working, we bust out the VHS. I got options, baby.
Yeah.
Anything people need. But it's nice to take a look and see on here the differences, because on your VHS copy, you're getting some blurbs. We're not getting any blurbs on the Blu-ray, so I feel like I got to go with my VHS copy here, which is giving us some hot blurbs from the people.
Yeah. Who are the blurbs from?
We got Joel Siegel from Good Morning America, baby. They're busting out top tier talent for a movie like Finding Nemo. Who's calling
Joe, top tier talent's a bit much for Joel Siegel. I don't know. That guy was more of a mustache than he was a movie critic.
Well, at least for our DVD blurbs that we're getting here, this is a big heavy hitter you can get. He's calling it one of the year's best films.
Wow.
And then we're getting
Joel Siegel really going out on a limb there.
Really, really busting out some of his top tier, whatever he can bust out here. And then we got David Ansen from Newsweek calling it hilarious and poignant. So he's busting out $5 words there.
He laughed and he cried.
He did. He really busted it out. But now we turn our attention to our lovely logline here on the VHS copy, and it reads, Nemo, an adventurous young clownfish, is unexpectedly taken to a dentist's office aquarium. It's up to Marlin, his worrisome father, and Dory, a friendly but forgetful regal blue tangfish, to make the epic journey to bring Nemo home. Their adventure leads them face to face with vegetarian sharks, surfer dude turtles, hypnotic jellyfish, hungry seagulls, and more. Marlin discovers a bravery he never knew, but will he be able to find his son?
Yeah, I mean that's a pretty good encapsulation of the movie, both like the kind of the aesthetic and the world building and what the story's about. So yeah, I'd say that was a top tier one.
Absolutely and beautiful. And interestingly enough, the Blu-ray has a completely different log line. Not even the same
Oh.
one. They
Are we gonna
decided.
how many of these are we gonna read? You had like four copies.
I'm not gonna read it. I just thought it was interesting. I won't read the
Okay.
log line. I just thought it was interesting that they switched up the log line for the Blu-ray copy. They decided, you're like, you know what? I think maybe we tighten this up a little bit.
Yeah, yeah. They
Is that
got some edits. They went to a few rounds of edits later. But
yeah, just
The Blu-ray's forever.
it's true. Yeah. They were like, we're never gonna have to do this again, right? Little did they know they wouldn't. Now, I'm assuming, as everybody did in the year 2003, you saw this movie in theaters, right?
I don't know if I did see it in theaters. I don't
Ooh.
remember. I mean, I definitely saw it like not too long after that, but this was the kind of movie back then where I was still probably like in wait and see mode on Pixar. Like I was kind of like getting a little too old for it and was maybe thinking, nah, and then like they would come out and I would hear they were like the most incredible movies of all time and then I would go watch them.
Pixar really didn't fuck around when it came to putting out just absolute hits, especially back then. They were on an absolute tear. And this movie, especially, at least for this early Pixar, you would be hard pressed to find a bigger global impact movie than Finding Nemo when it first came out. Like this movie was everywhere. Everybody talked about it. Everybody loved it. It
Yeah.
was insane how beloved this movie was and how big of a deal this movie was. I remember obviously I went and saw it because Pixar was always top tier for me. A Bug's Life as a kid, classic. That was one of the best movies I've ever seen. So obviously I was seeing day one, anything Pixar put out, I was going to see. But I just
Yeah. Who
remember
did you
going
go
to
with?
school. I think I went with it was just me and Zach, I think, for this one. I think the two of us just went to go see this movie. Just
Okay.
us, guns a blazing. But I remember going to school and everybody was talking about it for months after this movie came out. It was all anybody could quote.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean like Dory specifically was like a cultural phenomenon, like the just keep swimming. Like this was like a huge moment for Ellen DeGeneres too, right?
Yeah, yeah, she blew up in a way that she was reaping the benefits of for probably still to this day
Like when did
from
her
how huge
talk
this
show
movie was.
start?
I don't know. That's a good question.
I think it was probably after this movie came out. Like this was probably a big part of her getting a talk show.
Being a talk show, yeah, it's possible because we know she had the Ellen show in the '90s, but I don't know what else she did.
Yeah, and that was like a sitcom.
Yeah, yeah, gotta have your sitcom in the '90s, baby. Gotta do your stints. But yeah, no, this movie brought her to a level that's I think everybody in this movie really just excelled from this. It was everywhere. Everybody
Yeah,
they did
so
everything with this movie.
this movie, I'll get to when it came out in the well. Actually, we know based on last week, it came out like the first week of June of 2003.
Mhm.
Ellen DeGeneres' talk show debuted September 8th of 2003.
Yeah.
So
So
literally like
yeah,
a couple of months after this, she
yeah.
was starring on like one of the most famous talk shows of all time.
And those probably have quick turnarounds. So this movie probably came out, did insane. Did the deal over the summer and got the talk show going by September.
Yeah, 'cause I mean that could theoretically happen that fast on daytime TV. Like if I'm not sure like who would have had that slot before her, but you'd have to think that her being like blowing up and Finding Nemo is why she gets that.
Absolutely. And I mean, it makes sense. This movie was an absolute moment. It was everywhere. I know I'm beating a dead horse here, but it was everywhere. The video
Yeah.
game, everything. Especially for an original property, because we expect this. We've talked about this in so many movies, but it's always been big franchises. We're talking, your Jurassic Parks, we're talking, all these superhero things, this built-in audience that would mean this is a smart thing to franchise. But when you get big movies, like especially in the early 2000s, when you're getting these original movies coming out, especially Pixar's coming out, and they create these huge franchises out of them. Finding Nemo goes on to be this huge franchise that does video games, gets theme park rides. It will eventually get a sequel that's going to do an insane amount of money. Pixar was incredible, and I think this movie especially cemented them as the studio to watch in the early 2000s.
Yeah, and this was the movie that did it for me. Like I liked a lot of the Pixar movies. Dare I say, even loved a lot of the Pixar movies when I was like a young kid. But this was the movie where, as a slightly older, like getting into teenage years, I saw it and I was like, okay, I'm cool with Pixar. I'll ride with them because they're making great movies.
They're making great. They're making movies that just because it's animated doesn't mean we can't make this movie that's going to take you on a ride. Like just because it's animated doesn't mean that it can't also be for adults.
Yeah, and I mean, like the way they do that, we'll get into this a bit more later after the box office, but like the way they do that is because Pixar at this point in time is the gold standard for just storytelling as a broad concept, you know?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we'll definitely dive into that later. But yeah, from a storytelling and screenwriting perspective, nobody does story structure better than Pixar. But yeah, and it pays off dividends every time they put out a movie because it gets absolutely insane box office returns. This movie doing numbers unheard of for most animated movies in their lifespan. So let's cue it up, Jim. Let's dive into some box office numbers.
Numbers, dates, numbers, dates, array, dates, numbers. Show me the money.
So I'm not gonna pull any punches here, right? Finding Nemo is against a $94 million budget. And like it's maybe the first movie we've had in a while that has like a chance. It gets pretty close to a B, to $1 billion.
Yeah, we haven't had a movie in a while that's even sniffed around there.
Right? And so we talked a little bit about its opening last week. We found it in the Bruce Almighty box office. It opens May 30th to June 1st, and it opens number one with $70.3 million.
Dude, that's huge for an animated movie. Like 70.3. That's good enough. We're breaking in the top 10 here, Jim. That's putting it in the 8th spot behind The Lost World Jurassic Park and ahead of Planet of the Apes.
Yeah,
It's
it's a
huge.
huge opening. And we
Yeah.
talked about a little bit about these other opening movies that week. The Italian Job was down in third.
Yeah.
Wrong Turn was down in sixth. And Finding Nemo nearly doubles Bruce Almighty.
Yeah,
in
that's
this
crazy.
week.
And that 70.3 is good enough for the biggest opening weekend for an animated film ever. Beats out Disney's or Pixar's own previous record from Monsters Inc.
Yeah, makes sense. Um, in week two of Finding Nemo, it is
Here we
going
go.
to be dethroned as the number one movie
Oh, man.
in what I can only hope our next episode.
Boy.
Too Fast, Too Furious.
Ooh, Jim, sorry to say, I did not get to see any Fast and Furious movies in theaters until they already started to suck.
Oh boy.
I apologize in advance for that.
All right, so now I'm in the position of do I want Too Fast, Too Furious to be my pick? And so should I not talk much about it in this? I think I'm going to avoid talking about Too Fast, Too
Oh
Furious.
boy. He's gonna
Because it
keep
is
that
a
in the
real
back.
front runner.
Yeah, gonna keep it in the back pocket for right now.
Keep in mind, my position on the Fast and the Furious movies is the first one is good, and they get progressively better until Tokyo Drift, and at which point there is a steep cliff. But
Well, listen,
so
there's
Too Fast, Too Furious is on the way to the top. It's still good, you know.
you can only go downhill after the Drift King.
Right. But so Finding Nemo comes in second with 46.6 million. Only a 33.7% drop against that big opening weekend is impressive.
Yeah, that's good stuff.
And it's still beating out Bruce Almighty. The Italian Job makes Matrix Reloaded. X2 is hanging around down here in seventh place. Nothing else really comes out that weekend. It's
Yeah,
interesting. Like
nobody
we're in the summer.
nobody else was daring to go up against Too Fast, Too Furious.
Too Fast, Too Furious is too big of a deal. You're right. What was I thinking?
With a title like that, they're like, dude, they put two in there twice. We can't. We know it. Just move the movie. We can't go up against them.
Yeah. So, all right, this is something we've seen happen a couple of times.
Oh,
Weekend
okay.
3, Finding Nemo. It jumps back into first place.
What?
Yeah,
Yeah.
39.1% drop. It pulls in 28.4 million in its third week, pulling ahead of Too Fast, Too Furious again.
My condolences to you, sir, but that's a huge win for Finding Nemo.
Okay, so there's 3 openers this weekend.
Oh boy, lots of pieces of shit.
I have my fingers crossed that one
Jim,
of them is our next episode.
Jim, I now before you start taking any guesses about anything, all I want to say
Yeah.
is I apologize for past TJ.
Oh no. So that makes me think it's not the movie I'm hoping it is, which is also in the running for my pick here.
Now you can take your guesses.
So the top opener that weekend is Rugrats Go Wild in 4th place.
Oh boy,
Don't care
Jim,
about that.
it wasn't that one.
5th place, another possible pick for mine, because based upon what you just said, I'm pretty sure this isn't going to be our next episode. 5th place, the Josh Hartnett, the Harrison Ford, all-timer Hollywood Homicide.
No, Jim, unfortunately, did not catch that one in theaters.
All right, that's in 5th place. And then what it must be then, unfortunately, also opening in this third weekend of Finding Nemo, Dumb and Dumber When Harry Met Lloyd.
Jim, I'm so sorry. I know last
I've
week.
never seen this.
I know last week
I've
we talked
avoided
about
this.
we talked last week about how good of a movie Dumb and Dumber is, and unfortunately, I must follow it up with you. I did go see Dumb and Dumber When Harry Met Lloyd in theaters, and that is indeed
I'm
our next movie.
It's unbelievable. I still have never seen this, and I'm so disappointed that I must now see it. I am so disappointed. I'm questioning every decision that's led me to this point.
Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. Yep.
But in the meantime, let's continue on with Finding Nemo's run. Weekend 4, it's gonna dip back down to 2nd place, only a 25.5% drop. And it's
This
4th
movie's
weekend,
running through the summer.
yeah, in its 4th weekend, it's still pulling in 21.1 million. It's way ahead of Fast and the Furious, which is only in its 3rd weekend, Bruce Almighty in its 5th weekend, Italian Job in its 4th weekend. Like all those movies are like around 10 million or less. They're in the top 5, but there's like less staying power. Finding Nemo a strong second here, 21.1 million. It's going to lose out to what I can only assume is the Edward Norton version of this movie, maybe.
Oh,
No, 2003 must have been Eric Bana, right?
yep.
The Hulk. It's just called
Yep.
Hulk.
Yep. That is the Eric Bana and Lee directed Hulk.
Oh my gosh. What a flick that was. And I want to say Nick Nolte is the dad, right?
Yes, he is. Man, 2003. What a summer.
Yeah, that comes in first by a long shot, 62.1 million. But so I mean like you expect that, where this is like a summer blockbuster, it's a big name superhero. But Finding Nemo hanging in there week 4. Week 5.
Tell me week 2 Hulk totals, and then we'll see how that staying power is.
Yeah, 2003 is a real shit show. So let's do the top 5 of this week, and then I think we'll just ride this out of the top 10. Opening number 1, this is the week of June 27th to 29th of 2003. Opening number 1, Charlie's Angels Full Throttle with
There you go.
37.6 million. What a piece of shit movie.
That's the second one, right?
That's
Or
the
is that the
second
first
one.
one? That's the second one.
Second one with
Yeah.
with Drew Barrymore's like boyfriend who's in the IRA as part of it.
Oh my god, yeah, and Crispin Glover is just like the mute who just like cuts people's hair and like smells it and screams.
Yeah, and there's like a like there's like a motorbike scene, I think. Like it's not a good movie.
It's a movie. It's a movie. That's for sure.
It's you know what it is? It's a McG movie. That's
Ah,
the best way to
yep.
describe Charlie's
Yeah,
Angels.
there you go.
Full Throttle.
Say no more.
Yeah, he directed that movie. Yes, that's
Yes.
um Written by Aladdin's screenwriter John August, by the way,
Ooh.
screenwriter of billion-dollar movie Aladdin, wrote Charlie's Angels Full Throttle.
Listen,
Uh,
everyone's got to start somewhere.
and as you hinted at, the Hulk has a monster, massive Hulk-like even drop of 69.7%. It falls from that low 60s millions we were just talking about down to 18.8 million in its second
Oh
week.
my God.
Yeah, and Finding Nemo just still crushing the game. Only a 33.9% drop. It's hanging here in third place in its fifth week with just like right under 14 million. Its
Dude.
total gross to this point is $254 million in its first 5 weeks.
Weeks. Yeah, like
Because you
that's
got to remember,
filthy.
like, this might be an interesting one to look at the dailies too, because we're going through the summer. No, kids aren't in school. Like, this is probably making a killing like throughout the week as well. Like,
Yeah,
on
it's
top
probably
of that.
making a mill like every day.
And then in fourth place, opening this week.
Oh boy.
This is a movie that I don't know if we saw in theaters, but we must have started hanging out not too long after this because I remember watching this with you.
Okay.
Fourth place with 10.1 million 28 days later.
Yeah, no, I think we would just watch this around my house because I don't think I didn't see this movie in theaters.
Yeah.
Saw the sequel. We saw the sequel in theaters.
Yeah, 28 weeks later, I remember seeing. Yeah.
Dude, that's a movie I have to revisit. I haven't watched that movie in ages.
And
Making a
then
new one
second,
now too.
is it 28 months later? Oh no.
28 years later.
Oh, they skipped right over months, huh?
Yeah, dude, they're going way far.
Oh my god. What's gonna happen in 28 years?
Whole lot of craziness. It's just like
So
the
like
normal world
the
again.
movie takes place like if the first one came out in 2003, I guess it isn't even that far in the future. Whoa. That just blew my mind. And then yeah, so anyway, we're way off track here. Let's
We're gonna round
just
out the five.
let's ride Finding Nemo out of the top 10. I have a funny feeling it's gonna be there for a long time.
We're getting a run, baby.
We just did weekend 5. It stayed in the top 3 for its first 5 weeks.
Beautiful.
It's gonna
Love
stay
that.
in the top 5 through week 7 with a 4th place finish in week 6 and
Dude.
a 5th place finish in week 7.
It's getting over the hump, baby. 7 weeks has been the average lately. We're seeing them at, oh yeah, let's go. How far are you
Yeah,
going,
and
baby?
it's still in the top
Just keep
5
swimming.
after 7
Just
weeks.
keep swimming.
To get out of the top 10, its last week in the top 10 is weekend 11. It's in
Dude.
9th place with 2.5 million. Finding Nemo never in these first 11 weeks has a drop greater than 40%.
Unbelievable. Like that's an all-star run right there.
Yeah,
And to really put
it's
in the
incredible.
like, dude, that's so good. So 11 weeks is going to take the number 4 spot. It's tying only one other movie that's managed to do 11 weeks in the top 10, and that's Star Wars Episode 1. So that should put you in just the league of like how good this movie did. The only other 2 movies that did better than Star Wars and Finding Nemo was Chicago at 16 weeks and Titanic at 27 weeks.
Right. And Chicago's a hard one to compare it to because that was like a slow rollout into different theaters.
That one had time to build.
But just some totals from Finding Nemo. We said it had a chance to get $1 billion. It doesn't quite make it to $1 billion, but this is like it's insane to look back on this and think that Finding Nemo did this well. It finishes with 340 million domestic, 531.3 million international for a worldwide total of $871 million.
Dude. Like that's unbelievable for an animated movie during that time. Like that's so like culturally important right there. 871 is putting us in the number 6 spot, Jim, just behind Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets, which did 879, and ahead of Lord of the Rings, The Fellowship of the Ring, with 868.
Yeah.
So like goes to show how big this movie truly was. It's beating out other notable movies. You know, you just mentioned Fellowship of the Ring. Also beats out Spider-Man's 825. Beats out Attack of the Clones. Beats out The Lost World Jurassic Park. Huge movies.
Yeah, I mean, this is like right. This is to this point, this is one of the most successful movies ever made.
Ever made. It beats The Lion King to be the most successful animated movie of all time at that point. It's just an absolute gargantuan hit. And not only that, Jim, this equates to those juicy DVD rentals that you love so much. Now, I
Oh,
don't have totals as far as dollar value, but up to your imagination, you could pretty much figure this movie did insane business for the DVD rental. This movie has sold 40 million copies and to this day stands as the best selling DVD of all time.
right. So yeah, home video, not just the place where you can turn modest failures into modest successes, but it's also where when you have a huge hit, you just cash in all over again.
It's it's absolutely
I
insane.
mean,
Now
40
let's
million copies. Like DVDs were pretty expensive at this
yeah.
point,
All
right?
right, so $40 million, a new DVD probably around that time is probably what, 15, $20.
Yeah, like I'd say like at least 1999 for a brand new DVD.
So let's round it to 20 just to be
That's another $800 million
yeah,
if
it's
my
another
math serves me
$800 million right
right.
there. Like they redid the box office in that alone. Like that's stupid.
Yeah, I mean it's pretty insane. It's very
that's
cool actually.
that's so insane. Which makes it, and every time we do this, it makes it even more crazy that that revenue just dropped out from underneath them. That it's just gone.
Yeah, I right, exactly. Like they still don't know what to do about that.
To really
Nobody's really
show,
sure.
yeah, to really show how much of a paradigm shift it's been losing out on the DVD sales. Like that's your context. This movie made $800 million in theaters. It did another 800 million in video sales.
Right. And now like this movie would get released on streaming like 2 weeks after it came out, just because they'd be like, please someone watch this. Like,
Yeah,
well,
and
maybe
we,
not this movie. Maybe not
you know,
Finding
this would
Nemo,
still
but
do phenomenally well. Like I'm sure they're still making good money, you know, doing, you know, video on demand and streaming and whatever, but nothing like this if you just had DVD sales.
yeah. And it was a good deal for people, man. It was like you bought a copy of physical media, you now had it forever, you know. Well, maybe not forever, but you had it for like whenever you wanted it on demand for a good amount of time.
Now, do you think physical media, as far as movies, will come back in the same way, like you see a revival in vinyl and stuff like
I
that?
don't know. I don't know. I mean, like the thing with vinyl is the quality of vinyl sounds much better, and I guess you could say the same thing for Blu-rays, right? Like Blu-rays probably look better than just normal streaming, I would imagine, right?
Yeah, well, especially and also with streaming, you're dealing with, you know, buffering if you know you're having a bad internet connection or whatever. Because I mean, as long as the DVD and Blu-ray is not scratched, you're not going to have that issue.
Yeah, I don't know. I think that like I hesitate to say that it will. Let me put it that way.
There, I think it could, only because, and I mean, I don't know. It really depends on, you know, people. It depends on people's habits and how much of a deal the average Joe is willing to make of this. But one of the things that you consistently see that, you know, rifles cinephiles, is with streaming and everything and with buying things on the internet, you don't really own it. At any point, they can take it
Right.
away and you have zero ownership for this.
I
Even
mean,
things you
especially with
buy.
streaming.
Yeah,
Especially
especially
with
true for
streaming.
streaming. But even
Because
things
stuff
you
pops
buy.
on and off of platforms all the time, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. And another thing to that you see a lot in certain streaming things is them changing scenes and changing the movie when they go to put it on their streaming service.
Yeah,
So
I remember that was a big story about the French Connection on Disney Plus, which for one thing, I can't think of a better partnership than the French Connection and Disney Plus.
yeah, right.
Those things just really go hand in hand.
The last place I should be seeing the French Connection with racist Popeye Doyle is on
Yeah.
Disney Plus.
And like, I don't know, that was an interesting thing to me because like I can't imagine that it makes the movie that much different what they took out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I also watched it, and I'm assuming it was I didn't know about this when I watched it, so I'm not I don't really remember which version it was, but I didn't really love it either. I hadn't seen it in so long, and I was kind of like, it was okay.
It's a solid
So
movie.
but yeah, you're to your point though, yes, like things get edited all the time. And like also like what they do with newer movies, I don't know if you've noticed this, but like I think The Flash was like a big example of it, where they released the movie and it was almost like a beta of it in theaters, and they like figured out what people didn't like and like what parts like were really bad CGI that like they just didn't fix before the determined release date.
they
So
polished.
by the time it went to streaming, they had like changed a few things about the cut of the movie, basically.
Yeah. And I think that's, a huge crux. And again, that stuff like that's really going to depend on how much does the average Joe Schmo care about things like that. And until it starts happening in such a degree that it riles those feathers up, I don't know if you'll see that revival, because obviously, like for us, like cinephiles, like even if I'm not the biggest fan of the French Connection, I don't think you should be touching shit like that. Like just leave the movie how it was.
Yeah, like because
But
it's like where do you stop is the kind of
exactly,
thing,
because that's a
like
slippery slope. But for most people, especially, you go ask any kids today, they'll be like, "What the fuck is the French Connection?"
yeah, and
But
I
that's
mean like
but that's a whole
they're
different other
also like
argument.
they're probably not even asking that question is how I would put it. They're like
Exactly. Yeah.
you're like you talk about the French Connection and they're like I don't know what that is. Fuck off.
Yeah.
Like
Exactly.
you
Yeah.
know what I mean?
Exactly.
Like they don't want to watch it. You know?
Exactly. And that's a whole other different can of worms. So yeah,
Yeah.
there's a lot of variables to it. I mean, I could see it becoming a thing that might get a revival, whether it's to the degree that vinyl has. Who's to say?
I mean,
Uh,
let me put it to you this way. Maybe
yeah.
this is my answer to this question. With us doing this podcast, I wish I basically owned most of the things we've had to watch because it's a real pain to find it. Like if you're starting from a place of I know what I want to watch and now I have to figure out where it's streaming, it's not as good of an experience, you know?
Fair. Yeah. No. It is great that anytime we're doing this, or anytime I have an idea of a movie I want to watch, I can just go into my basement and I have, more often than not, I have the movie. Like it's very few movies that slip between the cracks that I don't own at this point.
Yeah, but we are on an all-time tangent.
We
And what
are.
I want to know
We really tailed
is
off
it
there.
is this gonna get an A plus cinema score? Do they even have A plus cinema scores?
Jim.
What is like? Get me into this.
Jim, are you ready for what quite possibly be the most decorated movie that we're going to discuss right now, at least
Oh
critically,
boy,
since we've started talking about these?
I'm so
So
ready.
here's one that I didn't expect, and that's our Rotten Tomatoes here. 99% critics.
Why didn't
I
you
would
expect
think
that?
what? No,
Why
no, I
wouldn't you
expected
expect
that.
that?
I expected that.
Okay.
Audience though, only 86.
Oh.
That I did not expect. I would have thought audience would have been right up there at the top also. So is it
Yeah, I
that was
mean,
an interesting one.
yeah, 86 is definitely seems beneath what I would where I would think of this movie as.
Which makes me want to like click on that and immediately go to worst reviews and see who's hating on it and how.
Honestly, I might want you to do that some weeks. Like find some of the funniest reviews you can find.
Find some of the great, yeah, because and that's always a great one. It's always great to do that for movies like this that are considered some of the best of all time, because it just goes to show that you can make the greatest movie ever, and there's always going to be some dude out there who's going to have the silliest reason for hating this movie.
Yeah. I have an idea that I might talk to you about later. I don't know if we should talk about it right now.
All right, you save it for the post game
Yeah.
notes
Yeah.
that we'll discuss. Highest IMDb rating we've seen so far for a movie since we've started charting this, an 8.2. And
Okay.
Jim, to answer your question, we have our first A plus cinema score.
Yes, I knew it had to be. Because who could leave this movie with bad feelings? Like, what could you possibly say about it the first time you watch Finding Nemo?
Or honestly, yeah, like what this, and we talk about this with certain movies. There's just certain movies you go and see where the minute it starts, you're not only in for the goods, but that they're going to excel on the goods. And it's going to be one of those movies that if you walk away from it and you're hating on it, then I feel like you just don't like movies.
Yeah, or like either that or you're going in with like
You got a
you
bone to
have an
pick.
agenda, is I
Yeah,
guess how I would put
exactly.
it.
Yeah, like you went in with the outcome already in the back pocket. And you're
Yeah.
just looking for the things to help affirm those biases.
So I
Because
guess we're kind of like tiptoeing into it here. What do you love about this movie?
we're
Because it
dipping our
sounds like
toes.
you love the shit out of it.
Oh, I love the shit out of this movie, Jim. I adore this movie with every fiber of my being. This is one of those movies I've watched throughout my life as I've continued to age here, and it ages like a fine wine for me. This
Uh,
movie never doesn't hit, and I think what I love so much about these movies, and it goes especially for Finding Nemo, and it goes for a lot of what Pixar does, and that is just that Pixar ages with us, and they tell these just timeless stories, and they don't dumb it down or kidify it to you. We alluded to it before where just because it's animated doesn't mean that it can't also be for adults. And that is the sense that these movies deal with these huge thematic motifs and elements that hit for you no matter what age you are, whether you're a young teen who's slowly starting to learn about these things and these lessons, or an adult who's just going to reaffirm those lessons, who maybe, just needed a refresher course on those lessons. They always hit for you. And I can't think of a more insane way to kickstart that off for a kid's movie than to have this father brutally lose his wife and newborn children. It's insane. The way this movie starts is such a gut punch. And that they
yeah, I
had
mean,
the balls to do it is
yeah,
amazing.
well, I don't even know if I would call it balls. I think it's just like the perfect way to start a story about an overprotective father. You know what I mean? Like, you start it by making us empathize with the fact that he's overprotective. You know what I mean? Like, we see why he's overprotective, and like we see the trauma that he experienced that led him to react this way and to go and to
Absolutely.
approach life this way.
Absolutely. And I would agree with, like, if this was a regular live action adult movie, like absolutely. That's how you start it. But I just when I say it had the balls for just an animated kids movie to start your movie like that.
Yeah,
It's
well,
a swing. It's it
and
and it
I think it's perfect that it starts that way too, because it's like it's what Pixar is like known for, is like we're not pulling any punches here. Like,
exactly.
this is gonna hurt by the end of it. You know what I mean? Like, and you're gonna like it for hurting, but it's gonna, like, it's gonna hit you in some places.
We're gonna take you through it. Like you're gonna learn a pretty great lesson here with Marlon. And we're gonna take you on a ride and talk about a ride, man. I think that's one of the things I love too about this movie is like it feels very much it's such a great road movie. It's very much a great hero's journey of them just going through and having to meet a bunch of cast of characters and having to overcome some crazy odds to get to where they need to be.
Yeah,
It's
and I mean, it works so perfectly, like, because again, like, it plays in so well to the idea that he's overprotective, right? So like this movie, like, you talked about themes, it's very cliche, right? The theme of this movie is if you love something, you have to let it go, which is something we've all heard a gazillion times, like to the
yeah,
point where who the hell even knows what it means anymore? You know what I mean?
yeah.
But what Finding Nemo says is, here's what it means. You know what I mean? Like, you've heard this a million times. Now feel it, you know?
Yep.
And so like the fact that they go on the road, it's like a buddy comedy on the road in the ocean, is so perfect because everything in the ocean's scary. And that's what he's telling Nemo from the beginning. And then when he's forced to go out into to find Nemo, everything he finds is terrifying. You know what I mean? Like, his bias is backed up over and over and over again in this movie. And like, he learns though as he goes on, like, yeah, it was terrifying, but we got through it, like we made it. We did the things we needed to do, and like we stood everybody like stood up and was heroic at times they needed to be, and it was pretty cool. And like, maybe it won't be okay, maybe it will, but either way, that's what life's all about, like it's just
Like
it's
as long
and
as I've
it
raised
tells
him
that
right,
story so expertly.
yeah, it's great. And it's wonderful that they lean into all of that good stuff about how terrifying the ocean is. Because it really is. Every step of the way for Marlin in that journey until he gets to the East Australian current is absolutely murderously crazy. Like him
Yeah,
battling Bruce the shark after he's gotten taste for blood,
yeah,
uh
yeah,
them fighting through the jellyfish forest, every second of what he's going through when they fight the anglerfish in the deep ocean, like it just pure terror every time he steps foot
yeah.
anywhere.
Yeah, and it's like I don't know, like there's this really like nuanced thing that they do with with that jellyfish forest scene especially. Like you see Marlin start to have fun for a second, right? Like he's
Yep.
been on this journey and everything's been terrifying, right? Like he almost gets eaten by that monster with the weird light and they like just are able to read the address and get out of there in the nick of time, you know? Like all the bad things. And in the jellyfish forest when he's first starting to buy into the idea that like, hey, this isn't so bad, you know? Like we're surviving, we're getting by and we're like friends and we're having fun. The second he starts to have fun, like somebody gets hurt again. You know what I mean? And like the turtles gotta like save him and bring him back out of that. You know?
No, it's great, and it's such a good building block for him to take that first step towards, that lesson that he leads to learn, but then he gets beat over with it. He's like, oh no, like I let Dory get hurt. Like now he's like, it's just reaffirming what that control that he needs to have over Nemo and how it just still has to just keep getting beat out of him. And then he meets Crush, who is just this great
Yeah.
stoner turtle, just living life. Like he's like, come on, Jelly Man, like let us see what Little Squirt does.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
he's like, you gotta let them figure out stuff on their own too. It's the only way they're gonna survive out here is if you have the trust in them to figure some shit out.
Yeah. You gotta let them because the thing is that it'll come to them one way or the other. You can't protect them from it forever. So you gotta like, can you let them try and learn how to confront those things in a somewhat controlled environment?
And it even shows right there in the first scene, like Marlin should see, is like Marlin, you and your wife were in the sea anemone. You were in your home, and still that barracuda was right there. So
Yeah.
like, doesn't matter where you go. Like life is gonna find him. Like you gotta let him live it.
Yeah. No, so like great theme. One of my favorite things with the turtles, by the way, is when they finally get to their exit off of the EAC, like the East Australian Current, and they're doing it like it's like a skydiving thing, like Squirt's like the skydiving instructor. He's like, "All right, we're gonna have a great jump." Like he's like
It's like
screaming
you're
over
really
the
cute, but I
wind.
don't understand a thing you're saying.
Yeah. Yeah, awesome. I also love how like all of the crazy obstacles he's overcoming kind of become the thing that helps him eventually find where Nemo is. Like the stories of his exploits spread so far and wide, you know, that it like it becomes such a huge story that that ends up paying off. I think was really cool.
Becomes like his own
Um,
monolith. It's so great. That's one of my favorite scenes too, is when it's just cutting between like how the story is growing and growing from like there so quickly until it gets to him. It's
yeah,
so good.
great B story by the way in this too, right? Like all the stuff with Nemo at the dentist's office is incredible.
Yeah. Is he's there learning.
And there's this is like the animated version of a that guy, I think, where you maybe know the person's name, but like maybe not are able to pick out their voice from a lineup. So this is like some of the crazy animated like voiceover credits that are in this movie.
Dude, this
Willem
movie,
Dafoe plays
yeah.
Gil.
This movie has probably the biggest all-star cast of Australians in this movie playing just random characters.
Yep, yeah. But I mean, you have Willem Dafoe in here. You have Brad Garrett in here. Allison Janney is in here.
Everyone in the tank is
Stephen
huge
Root.
too. It's
What's
amazing.
that?
Everyone in the tank is like is a known like TV commodity
Huge
besides
star.
Willem Dafoe.
Yeah, well, and I mean, he's really famous though,
Well,
right? Like everybody knows who that is.
yeah, he's very famous. But you know who else?
Um,
You got Jeffrey Rush as the Pelican,
yep, Jeffrey Rush
which
plays
is
the Pelican.
so funny to me that they got that. One that I didn't realize until later on when I was looking at the voice cast was that one of the sharks was Eric Bana.
Yeah. I was looking at that one right now. Yeah,
So good. It's like they had every Australian on retainer. We're like, we're gonna put him somewhere. They couldn't get Crocodile Dundee.
Yeah. Yeah, I also like another thing I love about this is like the relationship with Gil and Nemo. Like where when Nemo first gets there and he gets stuck in the tube and Gil kind of like talks to him and like talks him into getting himself out of it. And like it's cool because like there's like layers to that moment, right? Where we're happy because Nemo's finally getting a chance to kind of like be self-reliant and not let his disability be like a crutch kind of a thing.
Yeah.
But Gil's also playing the angle of like, I need to see if he can swim back out of there for when we need to break out, you know?
I gotta see how far he can go. He's kind of like
Yeah.
pushing him to his limit, while also Nemo is like discovering his own individuality in a sense. Like he's seeing how much he's got in him now that he doesn't have his overbearing father
Yep.
shutting anything down before he can even start to have that kind of sense of self.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Also,
it's great.
Darla, amazing. Like,
I just love, and it's funny because you know you don't even realize that when you're a kid. Is two great references in this movie is Psycho right there when Darla shows up finally, and you get that,
yep, yep. The
and
music,
then
yeah.
yeah, and then Bruce does The Shining when he's attacking them when he's like, "Here's Brucey,"
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and it's just
Great
like
references, yeah.
incredible. Yeah, two incredible references right there.
But
Just
like the little girl is just so perfect, like because that really is how 6-year-olds act. Like she's
absolutely,
grabbing the bag and like shaking it and being like, "Why are you sleeping?"
yeah,
Like
just
she's like,
stabbing the tank. Dun,
yeah,
dun, dun.
that really is
Find
how
a happy
little
place.
kids
Find a
act.
happy place.
And they really are torturing those poor fish. You
Yeah,
know what I mean?
those poor fish. Yeah, and even like the dentist with his own like inflated sense of self is like, I saved that bad boy out in the reef.
Yeah, yeah.
So
Well, to
yeah,
be fair, he was kind of like, I don't know. He did seem like he was in a bad spot. I could see where the dentist thought he was maybe helping him out.
listen, Nemo was just going out trying to get some ass. He touched the butt.
He touched the butt. Oh, yeah,
Touched the
yeah.
butt. But yeah, I one of my favorite bits about this movie is just the colorful cast of characters and the way in which they make so many interactions distinct and enjoyable in this movie.
Mount,
From meeting.
the
Yeah,
tribe around Mount Wanahakaluki is one of my favorite parts. Like one of my favorite cast of characters, world building kind of places is the tank in the
so much
dentist
fun. But
office.
like, hee hoo ha ha.
Yeah,
Enough with the shark bait. This movie is just, and a lot of the times with kids movies, the comedy can always feel forced and too childish and not hit. The comedy in this movie is so great, and I still laugh at everything that this movie puts out today. And
yeah,
I want, to me, still, even watching it so many years later, has to me the funniest fart joke ever, which is when all of the submarine bombs go off and it just
yeah, yeah.
cuts to the two seagulls up top and just the one little bubble pops out and the guy just goes, nice. It flies
Yeah, like
away.
he's like mad at it.
Yeah,
He's not. He doesn't really think it's nice.
like nice. It just
But
flies off.
yeah,
I died. Still to this day, I die. It's so
yeah.
fun.
No, I mean it's got a lot of those like one-off kind of moments, and then I really think part of like what makes the comedy in this work is that Albert Brooks and Ellen DeGeneres are just crushing it for the majority of the movie.
And they casted this movie very well. The two of
Yeah, I
them
mean,
play off of each
Albert
other.
Brooks is literally like the best person to play Marlin. I mean,
Yeah.
like maybe Woody Allen.
Yeah.
Like,
What you need for like a neurotic comedian, it's you could you
yeah, yeah.
yeah,
And I
Albert
mean, I
Brooks, top of the
you've
charts.
seen that movie Defending Your Life, right?
Yeah. Not in a
It's
long
like
time, but
yeah, I mean not in a long time for me either, but like that's the same kind of energy where he's like he really like Albert Brooks on screen can really embody that kind of like nervous, anxious, like just core existence like that is and I don't know, it's just really his thing. So he crushes it as Marlin, and then Ellen DeGeneres has got that like kind of like perfect quirkiness to be Dory, and they play
yeah.
off of each other so well.
Just
It's just
build
very
such
cool.
a well, they just build such a good world because it's like when they're sitting there trying to figure out like, all right, well, how are these, like, it's of course the turtles are these like stoner-esque surfer guys. You go up there. Who's really annoying? Oh, seagulls are always annoying. So they're just always like mine, mine, mine.
Yeah. Well, and they
Another
really that is like the sound they make too.
Yeah. Another amazing bit, which is such a small one, is all the different dialect variations of all the different animals when they're telling the story of Marlin as it's going towards him. Like you
Yeah.
go to the lobsters and they're like Boston, they're like, and it's dark, man. I'm talking wicked dark.
Yeah,
He's
and
like, hey, Bob.
it's such a perfect way to show how far and wide it's going. You know what I mean? Like it's like their equivalent of like world news. You know?
Yeah. Like it's just traveling. I die every time. Like the swordfish are like hoity-toity, like British, and then they're like, and I say, dear chap, like
Yeah. Like this was the ocean's Hawk Tuah girl. Was Marlin's quest after Nemo. Everybody was talking about it.
oh my god, that's so funny. And very Cheers' very own John Ratzenberger, baby. Yeah,
Oh
not
yeah. He's like
yeah,
he's the fish that do
this
the
yeah,
like Pictionary
the
stuff,
yeah,
right?
yeah, the school the like school of fish that is like, buddy, for a
Hey,
clownfish.
we're talking to the lady.
Yeah.
That was the worst Cliff from Cheers impression ever.
And they're
I need to
just
start
like
watching Cheers again because
yeah,
I would be able to do it.
he's a swordfish. Hey buddy. So good. But yeah, this movie, I don't have a bad thing to say about this movie. It's one of the best animated movies. It's so deserving that this movie had all the accolades, made all this money. It's phenomenal, and the way that they finished this movie, and finally let Marlin overcome that grief of being that overprotective child parent, because now he's actually in a scenario where he actually has a chance that he might lose his son, and he
Yeah,
has to let his son go to try to not only save Dory but save the rest of these fish that are about to
yeah,
get picked up. It's so
right.
full circle.
And it's such a perfect thing because it's like if you know, like if you just walk away with him there, what are you protecting him from? Being a good person? You know what I mean? Like
Exactly. Yeah.
it's like all
Like,
he's trying to do is like sacrifice himself to help people who are in danger, you know? Like isn't that what you want him to do? Like I don't understand. Like
and you just traveled all of these leagues with this fish that helped you when nobody else would. And
right,
you're going to
right.
turn your back on her now, like just because you have your son back. Like you can't walk away at that point.
Yeah, yeah. And it's cool that Nemo is the one who shows him that. And then yeah, you're right. He has to have that moment where he like literally lets go and lets him go in.
It's so good. It's like and this was one of those movies I remember watching too when I was a kid, where I started to fall in love with the elements of what goes into just writing a movie and from like a storytelling perspective, because I remember watching this movie and just being like, dude, you could tell a story like this with animation. Like this is unbelievably good. Like,
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, I'm interested to see where you stack this up against other Pixar movies. So I think we should probably go to IMDb for now.
oh yeah,
And
that is and
unless you
there
have unless you have any other big sweeping things here.
no, not really else that I think we covered, especially all the big, huge, fun parts about this movie with its cast of characters. And again, like it's not like we really have anything that I could write home about hating this movie. So I'm ready to turn it over to the deep dive and see not only its accolades, but finding out where this stacks up against the other Pixar classics.
Um, so we a lot of times when we do this, we talk about awards, and the award shows we talk about tend to be potentially tongue in cheek. We talk a lot about the MTV Movie Awards. We talk a lot about the Teen Choice Awards. If we're lucky, the Kids Choice Awards make an appearance. But today we're talking about a movie that's nominated for like legitimate things. like this movie has 49 wins and 63 nominations. That's really like destroying anything I've seen,
Yeah,
like from what we've looked at so far.
we've
So,
actually finally got a well-respected, huge movie.
yeah. So for the sake of us all, we are not going to talk about most of those 63 nominations 'cause
It
that's a lot. That's a
is
lot.
a
We're
lot.
not going cover them.
And also those other ones, you've kind of seen them in previous episodes, been touched upon in some of the other movies nominations for
Yeah,
like
yeah.
MTV and stuff like that.
So we're gonna start with the Oscars.
Oh, right
You might
up
have
to the
heard of
big
them.
boys.
You might have heard of them. A lot of times when we're looking at this, we're like the Las Vegas film critics who work on Tuesdays awards. You know what I mean? Like,
And
um,
those
these
guys,
are
those
the
guys really bring the heat.
yeah, these are the Academy Awards. Like the Academy. You don't even need to know which Academy it is. You just say the Academy, and everybody's like, ah, yeah, that one.
It's like absolutely, I know it. Helmium.
So this is gonna win one Oscar. It's gonna win the 2000 and it's so this is the 2004 Academy Awards. It's gonna win for Best Animated Feature.
Totally deserved. Who?
That
What's it up against?
let's take a look here.
What other hitters they're going up against in 2003?
It's embarrassing how far I have to scroll down for Best Animated Movie.
Yeah, right. It should be right up there with Best Picture.
They don't even take animation seriously back then.
Fucking
So
bastards.
okay. This is very interesting. One
Oh
of
boy.
those movies I recognize the art style of. Another one of these movies I've never even heard of.
Oh boy.
So this is back when they had 3 nominees for Best Animated Feature. I think they've since expanded
Sad.
to 5.
Yeah. Well, I think also you had a lot less animated movies back then. Maybe.
At least a lot less that the Academy Awards had any chance of recognizing.
Yeah.
So Finding Nemo wins. The other 2 are a movie called Brother Bear, which I have no idea what that is.
That's another Disney movie.
The poster here that's on IMDb is absolutely terrifying.
Is it two bears looking at each other?
I can only see one bear really. Like
Oh.
there might be 2, but just I'm kind of zoomed out. It's just one bear, and he looks very scary.
Boy.
And then this is the movie I recognize, but I've definitely never seen: The Triplets of Belleville.
What? I've never heard of that.
It's like a French movie. I only
There we
remember
go.
it because I probably
That's
watched these Academy Awards and was like, "What the fuck is that art? Like that is so weird looking."
That sounds about right.
It looks cool though. It might be. I might want to watch this honestly. But so those are the 2 movies that it's up against. It beats those for the Academy Award. It's also
Deservedly.
nominated for at the Academy Awards. It's nominated for Best Original Screenplay, which is
Dude, let's
wild
go.
to me. And that is like,
It just goes to show how tightly written this movie is.
yeah.
Who
Do you
wins
wanna
best
say- Do you know what it lost to?
2003 Best Original Screenplay?
Yeah.
The Italian Job?
No, no. First of all, that would have been an adapted.
Oh yeah, you're right. That would have been adapted. No, because the only thing I could think of, or everything that comes to mind, is all adapted. Because I don't. Because is it Monster?
No, I don't think this is the Monster year.
Yeah, Monster might have been
was
nominated the
nominated
previous
year
year. All right, what won?
Because this is it's the 2004 Academy Awards.
For
So
2000,
like Monster,
yeah.
Monster, I believe would have been the year before. So, but
Would've been
anyway,
the year before.
the
Yeah, 'cause-
winner was Lost in Translation. This is
Oh.
the Bill Murray movie.
That fucking movie.
I don't
Okay.
even really recognize any of these other ones that were nominated. Dirty Pretty Things, In
Never heard of it.
America, and
Never heard of it.
Barbarian Invasions.
Never heard of them. Jesus
Never heard of them.
Christ.
Yeah,
Dude, if it wasn't for Lost in Translation, that would have been Finding Nemo's year.
I know, right?
Can you imagine Best Original Screenplay, Finding Nemo? Honestly,
That'd be wild. That'd be wild.
Finding Nemo, better script than Lost in Translation.
I have not read the Lost. I don't know if I've ever seen Lost in Translation. Honestly, I may need to
Not a
watch
fan
it.
of it.
Yeah, I'll have to watch it and get back to you.
You do that.
The next Oscar it's nominated for, Best Music Original Score.
Oh, all right. Yeah, I could dig on that.
Thomas Newman was nominated.
Could dig
It
on
went
that.
up
Listen.
against Cold Mountain,
Ooh.
Lord of the Rings: Return of the King, Big Fish, and House of Sand and Fog. I'll give you. What do you think won?
Gee, let me take a guess. Lord of the
Yeah, 'cause
Rings.
it's like this is the year Lord of the Rings won like
Win
11
everything.
Oscars,
Yeah,
right?
it won like
If it was
everything.
nominated, chances are it won.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, that sounds about right.
And then it's also nominated for Best Sound Editing, which I'm gonna
Nice.
scroll down here, but I have a
Let me, yeah.
funny feeling
Hmm.
that another movie is
Hmm.
also gonna win for Best Sound Editing.
What could have taken that one?
Let's
Might it
see.
have been a king returning for something? I think.
Best Sound. Oh, interesting.
Oh, is
Okay,
it
so
not?
Return of the King wins for Best Sound Mixing. Different category. Um, let's go. We know Finding Nemo is nominated. The other two movies here are Pirates of the Caribbean: The Curse of the
Nice.
Black Pearl,
Yeah.
and Master and Commander: The Far Side of the World.
Ooh, dude, that's a stacked nomination right
That's
there.
it. And there's only three nominees for Best Sound Editing.
Wow. Does Pirates win?
Nope, it's Master and Commander.
Ooh, all right. And this is what sound design
Editing.
you said? Sound
Editing.
editing. That's so
Lord of
weird.
the
They're
Rings
like, they're
won
like,
Best.
listen, Lord of the Rings, you mix the sound really well, but I don't know if it
Yeah,
was edited as great.
edited.
It's like, what the fuck?
Not even nominated.
Yeah,
Sound mixing, great, you
yeah,
win.
yeah. Like you mixed it phenomenally. Like it's in my headphones, peak performance.
Yeah, yeah.
But as far as
I
the
I
editing,
honestly wonder how they decide who wins that. That does seem pretty interesting.
it seems that's
That
a
that's all
little.
its Academy Award nominations. It's also going to be nominated for a couple of BAFTA awards.
Ooh, that's for your
Also,
Brits out there.
yeah, also nominated in the 2004 BAFTA awards for Best Original Screenplay.
Yeah,
Let's
dude,
see if
right.
BAFTA had anything else worth mentioning in them.
Does BAFTA have a best animated feature category? No, right?
No, I don't think so. I'm not sure, but I don't think so.
I don't
It's
think so.
no, so
Do-
it's
They
not.
do.
It's
They
yeah. There's
do.
it's not nominated for that, which I assume it would have been. It's nominated for Best Original Screenplay.
Okay.
Um, some of these movies are the same: Lost in Translation, Barbarian Invasion, The Station Agent with Tom McCarthy by Tom McCarthy
Or
is with Peter Dinklage, that Peter Dinklage movie. That wins Best Original Screenplay. And then it's nominated for wait, hold on. Is this what I thought it was? BAFTA. Yeah, BAFTA. It should be. I don't see it here though. It says it's nominated for Best Feature Film,
well,
but
yeah.
I
Well, I mean,
don't.
if they're not doing an animated category, you would think it would just have to go for the run at the feature.
Yeah, but I don't. The problem is I don't see it. Oh, hold on. You know why?
Oh boy, why?
So, this is so silly. So, it's nominated for Best Original Screenplay at the actual BAFTA Awards. It's a 2004 nominee for the BAFTA Children's Awards Best Feature Film,
Oh my god.
which I refuse on principle alone to go look at the BAFTA Children's
No,
Awards and
absolutely
spend
not.
too much time here as it is. And then
Take a hike, BAFTAs.
it's nominated for a Golden Globe for Best Motion Picture, Comedy, or Musical,
Nice.
which
Goes to Lost in Translation.
yeah, was that a comedy Lost in Translation? I thought that was like kind of a drama, no?
I don't know. Is that what won? Was that right?
No, hold on.
Oh,
This is a bummer. I should have brought these up beforehand, some of
yeah.
these.
What were you thinking?
Because they're like they're not in like any particular order, but I think it is going to be Lost in Translation because Bill Murray won for actor in a motion picture, comedy, or musical.
That sounds about right. They were obsessed.
But it's like there's way too many of these, and the category names are too long. I'm like
Fuck
scrolling
it.
through it, not finding it. So fuck it. Exactly. Like I'm down to like best performance by an actor in a television series. I must
Oh
have
God.
passed the movie
Yeah, just
already,
way,
right?
way too much, way too
Like
much bullshit.
way too much, yeah. So, but long story short, it doesn't win that. It's just nominated,
Yeah, that's fair.
and those are its big awards. I don't know that there's any real actor I want to look at for this. I mean, like it's interesting for animated movies. I think the awards were cool. I guess just maybe we'll talk about like what did you think about the Pixar movies like before Finding Nemo? Where does it land on that pantheon for you?
Of ones as far as what had been released up until Finding Nemo.
Yeah,
You
up
mean?
until Finding Nemo. Like, so that would be like Monsters Inc. Would have come
Yeah.
out already.
No,
Um,
I had always firmly been on the Pixar bandwagon from the get-go. I loved Toy Story. I was a huge fan. I know this one is like the forgotten stepchild, but I was a huge fan of A Bug's Life. And then of course Monsters Inc. was another one. Obviously, it didn't hit to the levels of Finding Nemo, but
yeah,
Monsters Inc. had just as much staying power. You know, people are still obsessed with that property today. So they were here. Of those movies though that have come out so far up to Finding Nemo, Finding Nemo clearly was number one though. That movie is
yeah. So just to be clear, the four that came out before Finding Nemo were Toy Story in '95, A Bug's Life in '98, Toy Story 2 in '99, and then Monsters Inc. in 2001.
right. So all right. So here's how I'm ranking them for our top
Okay.
five. And it's funny because even though I said I love A Bug's Life and have the biggest soft spot for it, that's still coming in at number five.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, it's
Yeah.
up against some really classic
Yeah.
movies.
It's just but like that just goes to show the level of Pixar's quality that a movie that I say is like I love is number five.
Yeah.
Uh
So all
so
right. So A Bug's Life.
so
What do you
Bug's
have
Life
there?
at five. At four, I'd put Toy Story 2. At
Okay.
three, I'd put Toy Story. And then at two, Monsters Inc. and one, Finding Nemo.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think I like that order. I'll take it.
Yeah, I think that's a good order. I like I know I wouldn't shoot anybody who switched around Toy Story and Monsters Inc. and all that stuff. I know, and honestly, any order anybody could say, I would be like, yeah, it's a fair order, bro. Like I can't argue with that on that.
By the way, we need to
Hmm.
do some deep diving here
Okay.
because the composer on the first four Pixar movies,
Oh, is
you know who it is, right?
good old Randy Newman?
Randy Newman,
Oh
right? And now on this movie, Finding Nemo, who we actually just talked about him being nominated for an Oscar for original score, Thomas Newman.
that his son?
Any relation to Randy? I don't know. This is interesting.
Oh, now we gotta. Oh, dude, now we gotta see. Yeah, he's the youngest son of composer Alfred Newman. Is that Randy Newman? No, Alfred Newman. Is this like a dynasty of Newmans?
He is a member of a
His
film scoring dynasty in Hollywood that
Yep,
includes his father Alfred, older brother David Newman, younger sister Maria Newman, uncles Lionel Newman, Emil Newman, and his cousin, also known as singer and songwriter Randy Newman.
unbelievable, dude.
Wow.
How did we not know about this dynasty?
Wow. The Newman family.
The
What is
Newman
going on?
family. How can they? Who is breeding them to have such an ear for composing?
I mean, Alfred Newman, I think, is the Newman. I think he's the original
This is
Hollywood
like the Jackson Five of white people composers.
dude. I don't want to get too deep into this, but do you know what other Pixar movie Thomas Newman scores?
Which one?
Well, all right. So there's a couple. He does Finding Dory again later on,
Okay,
but
natural.
Wally is the big one here, I think.
Ooh, okay. Okay. Wally's a good one. Oh yeah, I'm look. Oh yeah, dude, he did Shawshank Redemption.
Yeah, I mean, this guy's legit. This guy's legit. So
Dude,
that
what the
no, I just
fuck?
thought that was interesting. That I was like, I saw Randy Newman, and I'm like, I bet you this guy Thomas Newman.
Yeah, dude, how did this guy? Dude, what a dynasty. That's amazing. All right. So then I guess my last question then to you, Jim, would be, what is your favorite Pixar movie? Do you have a favorite?
Um, it's so hard to say because there's so many, and they're all so good.
It's the
I
beauty.
mean, maybe not all so good, but a lot of them are so good. If you forced me to pick one, I would pick Wally, I think.
Big Wally. That's a good one. I would. Yeah, that's a great movie
I
right
just
there.
think I think Wally has like some of the most iconic scenes like that really stick out to me. And I mean like I love a lot of these movies, but if you like forced me to pick one, I would pick Wally.
Sure. Well, I think that's also the beauty of
Got
Pixar
Fred
is that
Willard because Fred Willard. Just for Fred Willard alone, I'd pick it.
that's fair. That's fair. But the beauty of Pixar is they have a plethora of movies you could pick from, and all would make a great argument for being the best.
It's fair. It's fair. What's your tops?
So my favorite Pixar movie is Ratatouille.
No way.
Yeah. Yep.
Maybe I
Ratatouille.
have to rewatch that.
The
I
most
never would have picked that in a million years.
the most delightful movie. So it's yeah, if it's been a minute since you've watched that one, I rewatch it because one of the best climaxes of a movie ever. It's so good.
Yeah.
It's so good.
I mean, the idea of it's so funny too, like that a rat wants to be like a chef, but like
Yeah,
nobody's gonna let a rat be a chef because nobody wants rats to be in the kitchen. It's like so it's pretty smart actually.
good, dude. Like, and this was especially during the era too, where Pixar was just they were throwing anything against the wall and they're just hitting homers every time. But they're like, "What do you got next?" And they're like, "We got a rat who wants to be a chef." They're like, "Fucking do it, man!
Yeah.
Great! Like, let's
They're
go."
like, he wants to be a chef. How? Well, he sits in the guy's hat and like pulls his hair, and that like that gives him control of his body. What are you talking about? Okay, go for it. Like,
They're like, "Done. Let's do it." So and it's great, and they're just storytellers unto their own. Nobody can match Pixar at what they do.
yeah, and I mean, like, I don't really have a lot of bad things to say about this movie. I mean, it's like maybe a little bit long, like, but it's even though saying it's a little bit long, it's only like an hour and 40 minutes. Like, it's not like
I was gonna
it's not
say, so,
overstaying its welcome by any stretch. It's if this movie were like 2 hours, I might have a problem, you know?
yeah, it might be a little bit on the longer side for maybe like what you would usually expect from like an animated movie. But yeah, 100 minutes ain't nothing to sniff at. So now I'm curious here is to see how high this bad boy is going to jump up here, Jim. And it's I'm waiting to hear it. Am I getting my cue today? Are we going to get some star ratings? Is Raj going to jump out with some good blurbs?
I'm Roger Ebert. In a scene from the best film of the decade. This is a great film.
It is a great film, and I wonder, Raj, what did Raj have to say about it?
I'm pretty
Raj,
sure he gave it 4.
yeah, Raj gave this 4 out of 4, calling it one of those rare movies where I wanted to sit in the front row and let the images wash out to the edges of my field of vision.
Whoa,
Yeah,
Raj,
whoa,
what? I
wow.
like.
I don't know if I could say anything as good as that. But
I'm just
we'll
picturing I'm just picturing Roger Ebert in the audience like thinking that exact thought like man if only I could stretch this movie to my entire field of vision and like
like I just picture Raj like wide-eyed in the front row, like next to a bunch of kids, just like letting the images wash over his face.
yeah that honestly that is such a good thing to point out too because like much like Avatar Way of the Water they're just like yeah we can do
Yeah,
fish and water shit it's gonna look so great you know
yeah. And
like
it does look, and it holds up. Watching it today in 2024, it looks
yeah it looks
damn
awesome
good still.
it looks awesome yeah.
Yeah, it looks really good. So all right, Jim, let's hear it. What are your final thoughts and ratings? Are they as good as Raj?
Uh so I really love this movie, and like I said, I think it's like I think I said this last time, like it's like Pixar is like when it's really still like throwing its fastball, it's like in the pocket, just like firing lasers, you know. Um, but like I don't know, like watching it this time, it didn't feel quite like a perfect movie. Like it wasn't quite as enjoyable like after having not watched it for a while and also having seen it a bunch of times and also having seen a bunch of Pixar movies that have come out since this. So like I can't quite go to a perfect 5, but I am going to give it a 4.5.
All right. I feel on that. I, however, am gonna give it a perfect 5. It's top tier Pixar. Adore this movie still to this day, for all the reasons we talked about earlier. It's just one of those quintessential movies that I can always go back to. It's one of those movies, we mentioned a few times with certain movies where I could watch it, it ends, you could put it back on, and I'll enjoy it like it was the first time I ever watched it. So this is definitely up there with the top tier ranked movies for me. So
Yeah.
I'm going for the perfect 5, and I'm widening the gap between us on our perfect fivers, Jim. You've given 4 movies a perfect 5. And I am now up to 6 movies with a perfect 5. So definitely the more basic bitch out of the two of us now that we've come to realize.
I mean, I don't know if that's how I would measure that. So what I've given a 5, I think, to what? Titanic,
You giving a 5 to
Harry
Titanic?
Potter
Yep.
and the Sorcerer's Stone.
Yep. And the
Um,
2 Lord of the Rings movies.
oh yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. Where I've given it to Titanic, Gladiator, the 2 Lord of the Rings movies, Spider-Man, and now adding Finding Nemo to the
You know
party.
what? You know what I've learned over the course of doing like 30 whatever episodes of the show or 40 whatever episodes of the show?
But
I should have gave Gladiator a 5. That's what like it was early. We watched like a lot of heavy hitters in the first 4 episodes, and since then we've watched so much nonsense where I'm like, what was I thinking? Not giving Gladiator a 5. It's such a great movie.
so your 2 big blunders so far was Gladiator not getting the 5 and Castaway only getting a 3.
Yeah, two big blunders. Castaway might even be the worst blunder, honestly.
Yeah, that one's definitely a big blunder considering some of the other movies that you gave a 4 to after that. So definitely.
Well, I mean, it's still not better than Doctor Dolittle. Okay, I mean, I don't know if
Well,
you can make
that's fair. I'll give you that one, but that doesn't mean Castaway deserved that 3. You just throwing a solid 3 at it, just really just
Yeah, I
shoving
mean,
that disrespect.
what I would say is like Castaway. Out of all the movies we've done, that's the movie I think about the most. Like, still from the last time I watched it, where I'm just like, man, and like he got off that island, but his whole life was over anyway. He was like he had nowhere to go. It's just like I always go back to that movie.
Amazing. So there are your two. So you're just patiently waiting for that 100. We get to that 100th episode where we could do the switch and see what can move up and down the list.
Yeah, if we even do, I
Rewrite
don't
some
know. I guess
wrongs.
those
We'll
are
get it.
those are my two biggest regrets though.
There you go. Well, now you're gonna have to face that regret head on, because with your 4.5 and my 5, that's gonna give Finding Nemo a 9.5. And so now, Jim, we only have one other movie with a 9.5, and I'll
Oh,
let
it's
you take a
Gladiator.
guess at what it could be.
It's
So do you
Gladiator.
take Finding Nemo or Gladiator?
I'm taking Gladiator.
I also would take Gladiator. Gladiator is still the better one on that one. So that's an easy bad boy right there. But still, Finding Nemo now settling in the top 5 spot at the number 5 spot, just behind Gladiator's 9.5 and right ahead of Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stones 9. And I can't think of a more deserving spot for that. Right into the
Yeah,
top 5. I'm happy with that.
this is an interesting one too because like I feel good that I gave it a 4.5 because I feel like if it was that easy for me to pick Gladiator over it, would it really have held a chance over any of the movies we gave a 10, you know?
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, to be fair though, by your own admission, Gladiator should be a 10.
Yeah, but so Gladiator would be one, Titanic was one, and then both
And
Lord
then
of the Rings movies
both
have
Lord of the
those.
Rings ones. Yeah,
Are the Titanic and those two Lord of the Rings are the only ones we've done?
that have gotten a perfect 10.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So I mean like come on, is Finding Nemo really in that category? Probably not, you know? I'm just saying.
I mean, there's got to be a perfect 10 that's going to sit at the bottom of the perfect 10s, right?
Yeah, but that just I don't know. I don't know even know if there's a way I can verbalize it, but there's a level of quality that exists in those movies that just isn't quite there for Finding Nemo. It's close, but it's not quite in that same tier for me.
All right. It's fair. I ain't going to argue with you on that one. But for now, we'll sit at its 9.5 with Gladiator.
Yeah.
And I can live on that. Um, Now, once again, we're not taking a guest for next week because you unfortunately guessed it. And we are taking a sharp dip in quality, going from the highest of highs of Finding Nemo to what quite possibly may be the lowest of the lows, with what is considered one of the most reviled sequels of all
Yeah.
time.
It's a movie I've managed to avoid for over 20
Yeah,
years. And
in
here we are,
Dumb
forcing
and
me to watch
Dumberer.
it.
When Harry Met Lloyd. Not good enough to just be called Dumb and Dumberer. You needed that subtitle,
Yeah,
when
the subtitle
Harry
was important, I guess.
met Lloyd. Because one of the questions we needed answered in Dumb and Dumber was, when did the two of them become friends?
Yeah, one of the
And
things we needed the movie's title to answer is, what is this about?
you're gonna get those answers, Jim. Just you wait and see. So yeah, that's gonna be. I watched this movie once in theaters, never touched it ever again. And I remember hating it back then, and if I hated it back then, it's never a good sign for today.
Yeah, definitely not.
Yeah. So make sure you tune in for that absolute shit fest that will be Dumb and Dumber next week. A hard piece of crap in the summer movie season. Now, Jim, do you have a recommendation for the people? You been jamming on anything?
Um, nah, I haven't really watched a lot of TV this week, like, or movies, other than Finding Nemo. So
Says you
I got
recommend.
nothing. What about you? What do you
There you
got for me? Anything
go.
I should check out in my
I
lull here?
just went and saw a new movie. Well, probably not a new movie by the time this movie drops. But I saw this horror movie called Speak No Evil
Oh,
with
that's
James.
the James McAvoy one, right?
Yes, yeah, the James McAvoy one. A
And
remake of a
Mackenzie, is her
Danish.
name Mackenzie Davis
Yes, yeah, I think that's the
from
actress.
Station 11, right?
Sure, is that where she's from?
Well, first of all, you should watch Station 11 if you haven't seen it.
I haven't. I've actually never even heard of that. So there you go. I guess that's your recommendation then, is Station
Yeah,
11.
that's my recommendation for you then. It's a
See,
show like
I brought you around.
the apocalypse happens,
Uh-huh.
like a huge pandemic like wipes out like most of the population of humanity.
That's just not realistic.
Yeah, definitely not. Nothing like that's ever even
Ever
come close
happened
to
before?
happening.
Yeah. What? Talk about science
Um,
fiction.
but it's like that, and it's all about like how like it follows in the there's like different timelines in it, but it follows in the future a traveling band of Shakespearean actors who like go around and like put on plays for people.
Naturally. Oh boy.
Yeah, dude, it's so good though. I can't do it justice by explaining it. You just gotta watch it.
And I'll tell you, I'll investigate. I'll do some digging and look into it. But yeah, so she plays the main girl. It's solid. It is a fun enough movie. I think if you enjoy, especially as we're getting into the spooky season now, going to the theater, getting scared a little bit. It's a solid movie. James McAvoy, like that
He
dude,
is he is so unnerving.
yeah, he's so good. He's in everything he's in, he gives it 110%. He's so good. And I hope one day he gets some critical accolades to his
Yeah.
name. Uh,
I'm not even gonna put a number on what percent he's given. All I'm gonna say is he consistently scares the ever living shit out of me.
yeah, like dude knows how to be insanely intense.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he is in this movie too. He's so unnerving in this movie, and by far and away the best part about this movie. He's so good in it.
Yeah. I remember one of the parts from the trailer, like when the kids like they're like doing like a dance and the dad's just like
Yeah,
parading them in front of everybody. And I think about that a lot, honestly, how uncomfortable it would be to be everybody but the dad in that situation.
yeah,
Like if you
dude.
were just the other couple, that sounds horrible.
That's basically the whole movie. It's just scenes like that. And you as the audience are just like you're feeling the douche chills with them. You're like, dude, I can't watch this. I'm so uncomfortable.
Yeah, and like that idea of like somebody you met on vacation who was like charming and you think like, "Oh, they're great." And then you get into a situation where you're isolated with them and they are insane. Like, God, that's so scary.
And you're just like, fuck, we're just stuck in this right now. So it's a good movie. It's a fun horror movie. You should definitely check it out. Just for James McAvoy's performance alone is a lot of fun. So there you go. There's your recommendations for the week, people. Get out,
Totally.
watch them, get out to the theater, watch Finding Nemo, all that good stuff. Let us know down in the comments below. Did you see Finding Nemo back in the day? You a big Finding Nemo fan? Obviously you are. Everybody is. Let us know down in the comments. And unfortunately, join us back here next week for Dumb and Dumberer when Harry met Lloyd.
Or
And
don't
as
do
always,
it.
yeah,
Maybe
or
don't
don't.
just skip
Or
it.
everyone's taking a bye week. But no bye weeks here. We're watching comedy classics now. And we'll see you back next week. And as always, we'll see you at the movies.